second panel interview from The Power of Self-Belief, the latest book from a Journey of Riches series, which has been going now, published now for over 10 years, which is so exciting. And I'm joined by a few of the authors from this edition. So we have Dr. Tanya Ash, who's now in Malaysia. We have Tracy Webster, originally from South Africa, but is based in the UK these days. And we have Stuart Kerslake, also from the UK, Susan Clawson from the East Coast, United States, and also Samantha Calvani from Australia in Sydney. And so great to be joined with you all, and it's great to connect. And I'm just really looking at when you've shared and written your chapter, and it was probably a 6 to 8 month process. And here we are, the book's been launched. It's #2 in the UK, #2 in Australia for hot new releases in motivational self-help, which is just awesome. We've got some nice reviews coming in as well. How, has your stance or view on the power of self-belief changed from when you were writing your chapter to now that your story's being published? Has that been the case for you at all, Dr. Tanya Ash?
Yes, it keeps progressing. I've spent the last week um, lecturing to integrative or functional medical doctors at um, a brain health conference in Malaysia, and it was the first time I'd spoken to the public um, what's been taken from my own personal medical health book called Reclaim Your Terrain. And I found myself, really stepping into the self-belief role because I really am speaking my truth now. And, I revealed for the first time my own health journey publicly and felt that little waver in my voice when I put that slide up, where we'd been all been invisible well, I've been invisible for decades. I didn't diagnose myself with it until this condition, which I write about in my chapter, Doctor Heal Thyself, until I was 51, so 5 years ago. So it was an amazing full circle moment for me, and literally on the back of the book launching at the same time. So I'm feeling very expansive right now, and really stepping into the culmination of my life's journey. I feel very, very humbled, very grateful, very privileged that it's all literally all coming together at the same time. And it was just really lovely how it was received by international colleagues, and it's given me a lot of confidence to move forward with my own tome as well. So yeah, I feel so happy. And right now I'm in beautiful Langkawi, having the island just off the coast of the mainland of Malaysia, having a holiday and just catching my breath literally. And I'm in my backdrop right now is staring into the sea. It's in the jungle. It's absolutely beautiful.
Oh, I haven't made it to Langkawi. What a beautiful gift to give yourself
Mm.
after this chapter and a 6 month journey in writing it and refining it, and how awesome that you got to share your message from stage in Malaysia. What a wonderful experience!
Yeah.
It's so awesome, and talk about stepping in and literally having to believe in yourself and um, yeah, and share from the stage in front of others that's fantastic. Does anyone else like to speak into that? Have you been challenged or anything changed from when you were writing your chapter to now that it's now in print and published and out there and readers reading it? Has anything shifted for you from your
I-
perspective on what is the power of self-belief? Stuart?
I'll speak to that, John, if you like. So,
Yeah,
as you know, when I was writing my chapter, I almost completely rewrote it.
you did.
And there was a lot of resistance around, I guess, well, it always comes from, it always comes from myself, but around this whole thing of belief and kind of forcing yourself to believe, and that whole thing shifted away when I wrote the chapter. to this sense that self-belief is inherently neutral. It's just the meaning that we put upon that. And then, the more we can be connected to our higher nature, if you like, our higher self-belief, the more functional it can be for our human. So that was a big shift for me at the time. And I think the way it's rippled out is that I've I put a post on Facebook earlier, which is called Buses, because I got two publications out at the same time. Nothing for years, and then two publications. So the other one is a Substack I'm doing called Ocean Stories, which is stories about people who love the ocean and why. So that's a shift that I've seen as a result of doing this work. I probably wouldn't have published either of them if it were not for this process and you, John. So thank you very much.
It's an honor and to play a small part, and really it was, respectfully, you stood up and took the bull by the horns, and we just had like a brief conversation about it. But I feel that that conversation just jogged something, like reminded something that was already alive and very present within you when you speak of lived experience in your chapter. So the wisdom was already there, and it was awesome that you shared, and it came out the way that it did. So everything was just meant to flow, and it was very synchronistic. And I really appreciate your humility, because yeah, you've got a lot of lived wisdom and experience to share, and that really resonates with your chapter. And so yeah, thank you for stepping up. And Samantha, does that speak into some of what you went through and experienced with your chapter, and relating it to your higher self, and that spiritual connection that you've had since you were a little girl?
Yeah, absolutely. I have found that like writing that chapter out, I didn't really realize um, how much self-belief I had actually had in my life throughout my life until I wrote the book. And I feel like crying as I say that because I lived a life that was filled with numerous challenges, as many of us have, and there was always something there guiding me and leading me, supporting me, moving me out of these challenges throughout my whole life. And like I said, I didn't realize the depth of that self-belief until I wrote the chapter. And when you asked the question a few moments ago, I started realizing how much more of my self-belief has shown up this year. I've had some health issues this year, ongoing health issues that have been quite challenging. I've being challenged with a rebellious teenage boy, my son, that has also caused a lot of self-belief in that, my self-belief in trusting him to move through the challenges that he's going through. And I've seen that self-belief strengthen at every challenging point I've had this year. And I didn't realize that had actually happened until your question a few moments ago. So it's been wonderful to experience and to reflect right now and go, wow, it's a constant, and it's been moving with me my whole life.
That's a beautiful share. And from my perspective, it really appears that you've had a roller coaster, magical carpet ride type of a year this year. Your
Yes.
son was in hospital for a while, and then you found yourself in hospital, and then you ran a retreat in Mount Shasta, and that looked like it just flowed amazingly after so much turmoil before that. And wow, just incredible that you were able to hold the vision and stick to the process, and it came to fruition. Must have been times where you wondered if it was going to come together.
Plenty of times. There were many, many moments where I was just bedridden and just questioning my whole life. Again, as I reflect, I realized it was always there. There was always a determination that just pushed me to keep going. And it wasn't through stubbornness or sheer will. It was a deep inner knowing from my higher self, from my soul, from my spirit, to say, keep going. This is not the end. keep moving through it. You know, there's something greater on the other side. And, you know, after my retreat in Manchester, hosting that was beautiful, and connecting and just changing my environment was also really, really profound as well. It gave me space to move and to expand in ways that I hadn't for a couple of months. And just having that space enabled that growth and that healing to take place the way that it needed to. But it was always that self-belief driving that. There's always that remembering there's something here, that there's more to life than what we've got or going through right now. And there is always something better on the other side. And that's been like the constant reminder this year, there's always something better on the other side. So if I could just, you know, share that message with the world at this point in time, it's that no matter what the challenge is, if you allow yourself to open up, there is something better on the other side waiting for you. And that's just been such a gift.
That's a mic drop right there. That's, yeah, beautiful words of wisdom. Really feel that. And yeah, just even just from Facebook, watching you go through that journey, I'm sure there was a whole lot more that I didn't get to see. But yeah, I
Yeah.
can really feel the resonance and truth in that. Thank you for sharing,
Thank you.
Samantha. And yeah, staying course and trusting the process and the vision. And Tracy, I know that that you can relate to what Stuart and Samantha have shared as well.
Yes, absolutely. You would sometimes I feel a little bit stupid. I've been studying ontology, which is the nature of being, for 6 years, and not once did I think about the power of self-belief. I mean, they go hand in hand. And when you first asked me to join you, it was before this opportunity, and I declined. And when this one came along, it just seemed the perfect thing, and I knew that it would um, teach me so much. And taking everything that I've been through and trying to write about it and in one small chapter and relate it to the power of self-belief was the most difficult thing, as you know. And the recognition and the realization that it all comes down to believing in yourself. Our whole world, our whole reality is all based on what we believe to be true. And so to have never ever questioned my self-belief was quite I couldn't understand how I'd never done that. And since I wrote the chapter, when I finally did it and did it, you know, it happened overnight, the insight that has been just materializing. And I feel like, I mean, my chapter begins with the process of a butterfly, I mean, a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. And I started this journey 6 years ago. And now I feel like every 2 to 3 days, I'm going from caterpillar to butterfly. We think that life is a journey, and we it's from beginning to end, and when you get to the end, it's done. But no, when you get to the end, it just starts all again. And so it's been a roller coaster. It's been absolutely, can I swear, batshit crazy. Um, and it continues to be so. And what I've learned is just to still my mind, be peaceful and calm in this present moment. Part of my methodology is that you learn to trust. And one of the biggest things I've done over this 6 years period is gone, what does that mean? What does it mean to trust? I mean, we're told you must trust. Trust what? Trust what? And ultimately, for me, it's trust that everything is working out in your favor. And once that settled in within me, I no longer, when I get triggered or things are happening and going crazy in my life, I no longer react. It's I stand back and let it unfold because I just know that it's unfolding for a purpose and that there's some higher divine unfolding that's happening. And it's like everything is a gift, because there is something good in everything. And it's like every single day there's a gift that arrives. And when I wake up now, as you know, my story, my husband passed away in October last year, and I now have a face for the divine. And I wake up every day and I go, okay, what you got in store for me? Sometimes it's crazy. Other times it's peaceful and calm. But each day is a gift. And I just continue to expand in this belief in what I can do and what I'm about. And it's just absolutely freaking amazing.
Oh, that's an awesome turnaround, Tracy. And you do really live and breathe this, and can only imagine what it's like to, yeah, to have the passing of a significant other, to the other side, another realm, and change form, and your adjustment. You express and share about that, quite, yeah, openly throughout your chapter. And I really appreciate the courage it's taken for you to face yourself and that time, and to make and the adjustment that you're making along the way. I remember our first group call, and you were sharing the different adjustments you were making, and really appreciate your transparency. And I know that there's readers out there that are able to relate that they've lost a significant other or a parent or someone really close to them, and they're no longer in this physical form, and they can't communicate to them like they used to. And yeah, it's such a beautiful thing. So thank you so much for sharing. And for those that are watching on Facebook Live, we actually can't see the messages. So if you're saying hi in the comments or anything like that, we will respond after this session. But we really appreciate your presence. Maybe you can relate to what one of the authors have been saying. If you'd like to just share in the comments, I really appreciate your presence and your any questions or any sort of feedback or what's been happening in your life, and if you've read the book, would would love to hear about that as well in the comments. Would love to hear from you as well, Susan. I know that you've already written a book series, and I believe it's going to be turned into a movie. You're talking to an agent or a director or something like that, but it was so great. Was it difficult? I mean, this is I think your third or fourth publication or something like that. Maybe you can enlighten us and how the process was for you writing your chapter.
Sure. Yeah, when you first asked me, I was, I could relate to the self-belief, and I actually thought I was going to write about this project that I have been doing for the last almost 6 years now. And it is a dystopian series. It's a realistic fictional. I wrote it in originally because I wanted to get it to screen, and I did not know how to screenwrite. So it just was out there on Amazon, and it was not marketed, and it was noticed by a few studios, and I'm working with one now out of Texas. And my book is changing titles and is getting a little bit tighter now. It's a 5-series book, and they want to take it to Apple in the fall and pitch it for a 5-season series. So I really thought I was going to write about that, but I sat and thought about, really, how did I even get here? My life has been very challenging throughout my life, and my chapter doesn't dig totally deep into everything that's happened, but I've kind of given a highlight over some of my challenges that I had given. And I never really thought about it while I was going through it. Having that self-belief in myself that I'm going to get to the other side, that something great is on the other side of that. Because when you're in the middle of chaos, you really can't see through that. And as I reflected back and see where everything is with my daughter, for one, she went through some challenging times, and I didn't see a way through that with her. And I don't think she saw a way through. And as she got older, and she still needed help, and I was there for her and helped her. And she says to me today, if it wasn't for you, Mom, I wouldn't be here in this capacity, if at all, if you didn't keep hold of my hand. And I had to really dig deep and think, how did I get through that? And it really was, I had to believe in myself. I had to be doing something right. my other child, my other daughter, I hate to say, she's kind of like the daughter, that you always dream you have, and they both were raised the same way, and you kind of wonder, what did I do? What did I do? What did I do wrong? And I really didn't do anything wrong. And you have to learn and believe in yourself enough that sometimes when you love somebody so much and you realize you can't help them, that loving them can also mean stepping back. And that's really hard to do, having to step back and let somebody find their way. And you have to believe in yourself enough that, okay, I can do this. I can let go and let them figure it out. So yeah, so that chapter just kind of went in a whole different direction, and had me thinking, especially as I read some of your chapters just recently, all the authors, realized, wow, there's way more to this, and there's much more that I could get into, but I didn't need to write it because I feel it, and it really has made a difference for me. So thank you, John, for, inviting me for this particular series. I know you invited me for one other one. I just wasn't in the mind frame at that time. And yeah,
No, I agree. Yeah, well, you're welcome, and I agree with you that yeah, this was the chapter that it needed to be written, and yeah, I feel there's some great insights about the power of self-belief, and when you believe in people, how they can actually change and turn their life around and their direction around. You were talking about one particular employee that you were managing, and they were able to turn their whole life around, and then through that, the ripple effect through their family and and their children and so on and so forth. And so I feel like sometimes we underestimate that the decisions that we make, the ripple effect that it can actually have. And I feel that your chapter is a really good example of that as well. So
thank you.
thank you, yeah, for sharing that. And good luck with your series and it becoming a
Thank
TV
you.
pilot on Apple. That would be fantastic. That's massive.
I'll
So
keep you all posted.
yeah, well, that comes with the power of self-belief as well, just to take those action steps and put yourself out there, something that's obviously close to your heart and spent years refining and creating that world. So I'm sure it'll go really well for you. And yeah, fingers crossed. And
Thank you.
I would love to hear um, what is some of what really now is what do you find like is the essence of the power of self-belief for you now, Dr. Tanya?
Um, oh, great question. You know, for me, the essence is I feel like I'm finally at 56 living in a flow. I've learned to be kinder to myself. I realized I'd been human hardering, as I like to call it, for decades. And I laugh looking back because, I did so many life coachings, self-help books. I remember there was a phase in my life where I was literally doing one course after another, thinking I had to fix myself. And and then I reached a point where it's like I do not want to do I don't want to read another self-help book. I don't want to do another course. Um, it felt like it was just more pressure on yourself that you're broken in some way. And I laugh now at all the metrics that we have, to measure, have you meditated today? For how long? And we humanity is just rife with human harder. It really is. And I look at it and just, I smile. I find it amusing now. I'm so happy I've had the realization and stepped off the treadmill. And yes, my self-belief has moved me through decades of challenges and suffering with my lifelong illness, genetic illness. But equally, I found dug deep, had that grit and resilience, But I, with all the self-coaching, I reached that point was like, I don't want to set another goal. I'm done. I just want to be in a flow and feel what I'm pulled towards now and what I have resistance to and use me. We have that internal guidance system. So I now feel I have a quiet sense of self-belief that that's just going to guide me for the second half of this lifetime. And it brings me deep joy and gratitude. And yeah, I guess what I'm saying in essence is that my self-belief has moved from, grit, drive, determination to um, just a beautiful sense of being, and that we have our own internal compass that we just need to tune into, and it will guide us beautifully every time.
Well said. I feel that there'll be a lot of people that can resonate with that. And I know, Stuart, you'll be able to relate to that and your journey. You were able to speak into what Dr. Tanya said and the essence of the power of self-belief for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tanya, we were probably on the same courses. So yeah, a lot of trying to fix. And I think the biggest thing for me, which came out in designing the chapter, and the title of the chapter is "Which Self Are You Believing?" And I was believing the other self, the broken self, the I need to do this, that, and the other to fix myself, self. Rather than my higher self, despite actually coaching this, having been trained in it and coaching in it is another example of Dr. Heal Thyself. So one of the things that came to me after this process or during this process was this kind of idea of three purposes in life. And the first purpose is just to be. The second purpose is to be human. And then the third purpose is whatever this human would love to create this time round, and that resting into the being and the being human. So, self-belief is a duality. It's a seesaw. We can be on either end of that seesaw. And that's part of being human. And I think I allowed myself to just rest into that and not judge myself for it. And the other thing that came to me literally this morning is that in my chapter, there's a lot of concepts or premises, and it'll resonate with those it resonates with, and it won't resonate with others, and that's genuinely okay. Whereas in the past, from my egoic stuff, I would all be about control and coercion and manipulation and bullying people into it. This is the way and the one and only way, and the finger would come out. Whereas now there's just a resting into whatever's true for other people is true for them, and it doesn't matter whether someone likes, a bit like my friend, it doesn't matter whether someone agrees with what I'm saying or not. That's them, that's up to them and where they are in their unique journey. And it's only about whether these concepts serve you or not. Each person can just look at that and say, does this serve me or not? It served me, and many of my clients, and that's why I still coach along these philosophies. But that doesn't have to be true for everyone, and that's another letting go. Letting go of the need to control what other people think about it and how they judge me. So I think the biggest shift for me was just acknowledging that duality, that we have chosen to be human, and the human has lives in a world of duality. The things, this is good, this is bad. And just accepting that this is a choice, and we can still live from that first purpose of just to be. And when we live from that just being, that's when real self, capital S, self-belief comes through. And I couldn't have articulated all of that before starting this process. So again, thank you, John.
Oh, you're welcome. And it was there within you. And I feel that that's quite a pertinent point that you're expressing there, that yeah, sometimes it's just a matter of letting go. It's not this whole more thing that Tanya was kind of alluding to, and that we're not broken. And sometimes just that surrender to that internal reality, that our higher self, call it what you want, allowing it to, trusting that internal compass. And Samantha, I know this is kind of a lot of your domain as well. Do you have something to share about what the essence of the power of self-belief for you and how you're guided? Oh, you just muted there, Samantha.
I just realized. Oh, so the essence of self-belief for me, I think at its core is really about trusting myself, trusting the inner knowing beyond anyone else's opinions, beyond what I know to what I believe is true. It's not questioning the doubt. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Let me think about this. It is questioning the doubt and honoring, just always going back to the core, going back to my core, and just allowing that to rise, and letting any self-doubt or questioning or thoughts that don't resonate at my core, at my heart, to just float away and saying, hey, you know what, there's no influence here. Telling myself that those things aren't really true, and just learning to let it go and really tune into what my heart and my soul and my spirit are speaking of. I think that's the essence of self-belief for me. And it's honoring that. And in my chapter, I mentioned that honoring self-belief is not an act of confidence. It's beyond that. It's just knowing. You don't need to be confident to trust yourself. You don't need to have the confidence to know how it's going to work out. You just need to know that it feels right and it feels good for you. And that has been my guiding light for many years. I realized as I was writing the chapter at 25, I was in a very toxic and, very abusive relationship. And I heard the words leave one day, because I was asking myself, what do I do in this situation? I had 2 young children. What do I do? How do I move forward from this? And there was such a strong, deep, not only knowing, but it was just a knowing, actually. It was just so deep, so strong, and it just felt so loud to leave. And I didn't know how that was going to happen, because I was financially dependent on that partner at that time. How was I going to leave as a young single mom at 25? But I did it, and I didn't know how it was going to work out, but it did. And that came from just that knowing, from that core, from understanding that there is my truth, and that is what I will follow. And it's been the same for many, many situations. When I decided to go all in on my business in 2020, I didn't know how that was going to happen. I decided the 1st of January 2020, that's it, I'm going all in on my business. I resigned from my well-paying executive job, let it all go, and then I didn't have a single client for 4 months. I had no income for that 4 months, and I was like, the self-doubt really was playing a role in those 4 months. But then it turned around. I managed to turn it around, and then within a week of me overcoming whatever challenge that I was having, I had a 5-figure week in income. So it kind of just reiterated that you don't need to know how it's going to unfold. You don't need to know the direction you're going, as long as your heart and your soul and your spirit are in alignment, and you're trusting that inner knowing, regardless of where you end up. I in my work, I often talk about just allowing that to guide you, because you will always end up in a better place, even if you don't know where or how the journey takes you, because then you reflect and you go, wow, look look at what I accomplished. Look at the magic that I created, and look at the challenges I moved through, and look at the person I am now as a result. And that's how I live now, and how I'm trying to teach my children, all 4 of my children, to live, my 19-year-old has always asked me questions, and I'm like, well, what does your heart say? And he's like, Mom, I really hate that question. I just want to know. And I'm like, but you need to learn, because this is how you're going to live your life. You know, and then, you know, trying to teach my 8-year-old daughter how to trust her own intuition, trust that inner knowing for her own decisions. You know, it's a gift. And I think if you allow yourself to trust that, then that self-belief just is a natural result, because there's always something saying at a very deep level, it will be okay, even if you don't know the journey.
Thank you for sharing that, and well said. And I know that there's probably a handful of people that are watching this now that can relate to that. And I'm sure, as well as yourself, Tracy, that you've been through times where it's just like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this, but I just know within myself that I'm going to find a way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for a lot of my life, I discounted myself. I didn't give myself a voice. And in having to write about the power of self-belief, I connected with myself. And ironically, now that I have given myself a voice, I no longer need to shout out to everybody about everything. I mean, for the longest time, I was on Facebook, writing long posts and writing books and having a lot to say. And now suddenly, I don't need to say anything. And it's been an amazing process of just trusting that everything is unfolding just as it should. And a couple of weeks ago, I had the craziest week of my life. It started off on the Monday with an experience that made me become a little unhinged, a lot. On the Tuesday, I was broken. I was sobbing. On the Wednesday, I was laughing and giggling about it all. On the Thursday, I found two Buddhist philosophies. One was just tree, and I forget the other one. And then on the Friday, something happened that was so unexpected that it put my life so right, as if the Monday had never even happened. But if the Monday hadn't have happened, I would never have gotten to the Friday happening either. And just being able to now look at everything as a process that's taking you to where you've asked to go. And I did a video on my YouTube channel with my late husband, the hero's journey. He was he had studied hypnotherapy and studied the mind, and he correlates the journey to the phases of the mind. And now I've just gone down a rabbit hole and can't remember what I was saying. All right. But there's a quote by Joseph Campbell, who originally did the hero's journey, and it ends off with that uh, I've actually got it here. Let me see if I can get it for you. Right, here it is. Okay. Right. So it ends off the uncanny discovery that the seeker is the mystery which the seeker seeks to know. So the whole reason we're here, and the whole reason we're going through everything that we have to go through, is to discover who we are. And when you asked me if I wanted to do this, I just knew. I had such a feeling that this was awesomely powerful and would bring everything that I've been working on together. And that's exactly what it did. And it was amazing how giving myself that sense of awareness of myself, I now no longer needed to be seen. I felt seen. I no longer needed to be heard. I felt heard. And it's from that complete sense of being that I now meet every day. And it's brought a peace that I've never ever had before. I lived my life in a state of anxiety. I made it work for me. I lived a really good life. And I did everything with a sense of courage, having to face that sense of anxiety. And when I turned 50, I thought to myself, okay, right, I've reached halfway through my life. And the first thing that happened was something in my mind said, what, halfway? You're going to live till 100? And I thought, oh, no, probably not. So I'm past halfway, better, time to do this. And I thought, do I want more of the same? And intuitively, I thought, no, while it's been an amazing life, no, I don't want to live it the same way. And from that moment, my life fell apart. Careful what you wish for, because it was a process of letting go of my identity to create a new identity. I suppose that's what going through from the caterpillar to the butterfly is all about, is losing that attachment to who you are so that you can become who you want to be. And that's what this chapter has done for me. And the process was grueling. The first time I first thought about what I was going to write for about the first 3 months, then I wrote it and insisted on speaking to you and getting some kind of feedback. Then I thought about it again for a month or two, and then I came back to it and completely rewrote it. Didn't even take anything from the original. Uh, and that happened 2 or 3 times over. And then finally I thought, what am I doing? This is like so much hard work and this is awful. I'm just not doing it anymore. I'm going to let myself off the hook. And I said to you, no, I'm not doing it. And like 3 or 4 days later, I came back and said, oh, I don't know if you've removed me yet or not. Can I do it again? And I had just written, I just thought, let me just sit down and write. And I just wrote unfiltered. And there was the chapter. And almost virtually no editing needed to happen. And it was a whole process of discovering me. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, and thank you to you for continuing on and not quitting on yourself. And yeah, there's so much richness and connection and lived wisdom in your chapter, and your husband plays a big part in that. And I'm sure that yeah, he's smiling down from heaven or wherever he is now, whatever you believe. And I just feel that yeah, his presence is with you, and um, the chapters are really beautiful representation of the dynamic that you guys lived, and then after that dynamic and how you've embraced the surrender that can come with the power of self-belief as well, without having to push it or live from a place of making things happen. And I really feel that within you now. So thank you so much for sharing, Tracy. I know you've been on this personal development journey for a very long time, and it's just really inspiring. Just the whole sort of interaction that we had behind the scenes, the way you overcame the challenges that you were faced with, and yeah, that's awesome. Really, really cool. And I know readers will feel that. There's a lot within your chapter, and I really appreciate you, yeah, not quitting on yourself. So there's a lot in that. And what about yourself, Susan? You were actually the second author that was actually completed their chapter. You also joined quite early in the piece. Your chapter just seemed to flow, and you kind of knew what you're going to write, and I didn't really have to have much involvement at all. It just seemed like this was what was meant to be written, and it seemed quite seamless in how it came about. But could you also relate to what the others have shared about the essence of self-belief? It felt like there was a lot of resonance with what Samantha went through, Tracy, Tanya, and Stuart at different times.
It's kind of interesting how, everyone kind of, it's like almost everyone experiences somewhat of the same type of thing in a different way. It's funny with self-belief because I look at it, I've always looked at things, there's two paths you can go down every second, basically. You can choose this path, and if you take that path, if I go out of my driveway and go left, I'm going to have a whole different experience than if I take a right out of my driveway. And life is just like that. And you have to make these decisions every single day. And I guess I feel with self-belief, if you have to be pretty strong and really believe in yourself, because if I take that left and it really was a wrong turn, I have to be strong enough to know I need to turn around and get on that right path. And, I think that's not always an easy thing. Like I said before, when you're in the middle of some sort of chaos, um, you maybe try all these different turns and you're reaching all these dead ends, and then you kind of stop and reflect back on yourself. It's like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I get on that right path? Um, so I think that it's something within that you have to find, but I also think I don't like to use the word event, but event based, it's based on where you are at that moment. So self-belief for me comes out in all different ways. If for family, for instance, what I wrote about, you know, my whole self-belief with my children was different than when I almost fired somebody, but let them flourish because they begged me and promised that they would do it right. And they went on to be a vice president of a company. But the self-belief that I had for them was different. It wasn't so much within me, it was within them. So I think it's kind of how you handle it. Um, but it's a really strange beast. I mean, it affects everybody differently. Everybody has their way of handling themselves. I mean, we're like our own little unit that we have to figure out how we get through life the best we can, and believing in ourselves and figuring out the best that works for us, each one of us individually. Doesn't always work for somebody else, but if it works for you and you can be happy and you've made the right choices and you can live by those and stand by them and believe in them, then the whole essence is it's there.
Mm. Yeah, I like that. And it kind of reminds me of placebos. You know, you have someone that, you know, part of their life is unraveling in some way, and I guess they're choosing themselves wholeheartedly, maybe unconsciously, but with a lot of essence and power, and they heal themselves. And then later on, they found out, well, actually, that was just a sugar pill, but they're completely healed. And like this, there's like hundreds and thousands of these cases around the world. Like placebo effect is a real thing. It's been studied, it's been researched, and the findings are just, I mean, they're incredible. This, to me, is the essence of the power of self-belief. And I feel like we all have had different experiences of that when we've just believed and we've been unstoppable and things have just flown. And I mean, if you relate it to a basketball game, you take a shot, you just can't miss. You know, you're just in that flow, and it's not like, oh, I'm really believing in myself. It's just oneness with who you are. You know, it's just you're not thinking or feeling, you're in this flow state, you're in the present moment awareness, and whatever choice and decision you make, it just ends up being the right choice. And it's quite incredible. And just really appreciate what each and every one of you have shared. I've resonated with it. I know the readers will resonate with it. And of course, the book is 99 cents as an ebook, or 15.50 as a paperback. That's in USD. And also the Audible, if you're in the United States, you can download that, or you can use Amazon subscription service, KDP. I think it's something like $18 a month, and you can read any of the Kindle Unlimited books. We've had quite a few readers and pages read through the subscription service as well, which is really cool. And just before we wrap up, it'd be awesome. And for those that are actually watching, we can't see you, so if you just put in the comments and we'll respond afterwards, we really appreciate your presence and feedback. And if you're saying hi, we all say hi. And it's just been so awesome. I hope you're appreciating seeing the authors and their essence and their presence, rather than just being a paperback or something that you read on Kindle, or a voice that you listen to, that you can actually see the authors. So that's really cool and inspiring. And I'd love to know, Dr. Tanya and everyone, was there a time where, like, you vividly remember where you kind of maybe were at a crossroads and you had to believe in yourself, and by doing that, you know, you just had like an epiphany or an awareness, you healed an aspect of yourself, or just something occurred that if you hadn't, you know what, I'm just going to back myself, make this decision. And if you've got a particular time, I know Samantha's already shared a couple of hers, and I'd love to hear from everyone else as well, and maybe another one of Samantha's as well. So, Dr. Tanya, I would love to hear from you.
I, as I wrote about in my chapter, it was, I think, an enormous turning point, unwanted turning point in my life was when I entered the dark night of the soul, and my life literally dismantled. At the time, I was running 2 integrative medical clinics in Melbourne and Australia, had an enormous patient load of very, very unwell, particularly Lyme patients, very, very ill from tick-borne co-infections. Because I've been through chronic fatigue myself, and just ended up treating a tsunami of poor patients who'd done the rounds of many specialists. So, and it had been my dream to have integrative clinics set up, and here I was living my dream, and it actually turned into an enormous burden. And on the back of that, my health wasn't great myself, although I'd learned a great deal to help my health through my functional medical training. I was at the back of my mind. I knew I'd been patching myself up from years, and would just kept going, going, going. And then I had two complaints from mainstream doctors, where the medical board in Australia basically rang me up when I was I was sitting waiting for surgery to have pins taken out of my fractured kneecap. And I don't know why I answered this call, but it was the medical board on the line. So telling me I had to stop practicing that very day. And so I went, I went into anesthetic, completely freaking out, going, I can't, it was an absolute surreal moment. And it I actually ended up, it took 3 years to unravel that. I had senior colleagues back me up, and, eventually I was cleared of any wrongdoing, but it took an enormous toll on me emotionally, financially. And concurrently, my sister and brother-in-law had started embezzling my father's estate, and I had to, over a subsequent decade, I had to take it all the way to the Supreme Court to protect my father, who was in hospital with Parkinson's dementia, very debilitated. And if I didn't stand up for him, no one else would have. So I stepped away from practicing, and I definitely went through traumatic stress on top, which had a stacking effect on top of my genetic illness and chronic fatigue. So my health probably was the worst it had ever been during that time. But I ended up in 2021 during COVID in lockdown in Melbourne. Another little mini trauma in itself. I just stumbled across something on the internet that led me to my diagnosis. And so 5 years ago, I started researching everything I could to better understand it. It was a relief to finally have a diagnosis to work with, because I'd been working blindly for years, and it's given me this incredible understanding of the terrain of the body. And when you fundamentally regulate your nervous system, it's your big ticket item, because it affects every other system in the body. And it's been an incredible learning experience for me. And I think if I hadn't been pushed off the proverbial cliff by the universe, I may never have cracked it, actually. I was too busy doctoring to look, heal myself as a patient. So, it's, as I said, although it was my very unwanted dark night of the soul, it's been pivotal in changing the course of my life. And I feel so grateful and relieved and enormously humbled to be on the other side of it, and now to be sharing my journey to help others. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing, Dr. Tanya. And of course, people can dive deeper into that moment, that dark night of the soul, in your chapter. You share a lot more about it, and that's the condensed version. And I'm sure that they may be able to see you somewhere within the country to hear you live as well. So there's some opportunities to tap into the wisdom of Dr. Tanya and her integrated medicine journey, both as a doctor and as a patient. And it's a really insightful read. So thank you so much for sharing that, and being so vulnerable and transparent. There's a lot that people can glean from your chapter and lived experiences. And does anyone else feel the call to share maybe an experience that they went through that really tested their self-belief? And
I'll share something. what I'd start with is the fulcrum of that seesaw of self-belief that I've been talking about. And I think it's no surprise that I randomly chose this picture because it was swimming in this about 6 a.m. in the morning when it was dark, was absolute a bliss moment and a real connection with everything throughout all time and space, if you want to call it that, but certainly with nature and the water. I was running a retreat just behind me somewhere. And what it led to is this realization that I would love to help bring more focus and attention on the open water on the planet and what we as humans are doing to it. And so the example I would give is the example in this chapter of being part of the Ocean Advocate Academy. I'd applied to be part of that to get, stories out about the ocean and all the rest of it. And it was chaotic because I was coming from my ego. It was rambling. It wasn't just about the UK, which is what they wanted. And yet it was still true to do that. And then kind of out of the blue, I get this call saying, look, a couple of people are maybe not going to make this first tranche of the academy. Can you do it? And what I'd forgotten is that part of the can you is that there was a week's residential and it was the following Monday, and I had to clear that with my missus and everything else. So that was the story, but it was still true to do it. So immediately I just said yes, without really knowing what was involved, because it was just so true to do that. And then out of that, as I say, my project that came from that was this idea of ocean stories, and now they're a reality on Substack. I've got other visits planned. It's literally just me walking the coastline and noticing what I notice and talking to who I speak to about the ocean and why people love the ocean. So it's a starting point for that whole thing of bringing focus and attention back to the open water on the planet. So that would be my example, John.
Yeah, that's a great example, and yeah, fantastic picture in the background, and it's pretty amazing that you got out and swim, and you swim in lakes and oceans and bodies of water, and considering that it must get pretty cold in the UK. Even in summer, my experience, it does get pretty cold. So that's awesome. And obviously, you have an affinity with the ocean, and I do too. I'm an avid scuba diver. I recently came back from the Philippines at a friend's wedding and went scuba diving. And you look out in the ocean on the surface, and when you go dive underneath, it's a completely different world. And I saw some incredible creatures. I saw turtles and lionfish and eels and octopus and frogfish and ghost pipefish, and I mean, just so many different critters that you would have no idea that they're there living and breathing, and this whole world underneath. And it was amazing. So thank you for sharing. It's so pertinent. Our oceans are so essential to life on Earth, and the more that we can create awareness and explore them and learn about the ecosystems and how we can support them and sustain them, I feel that, yeah, that's a great awareness. And of course, people can connect in and read your Substack if they go to your Facebook page, I believe. And that's a great initiative to create awareness around that and to believe in yourself. And it comes back, that letting go of how, what you want it to be. And then it came back to you when you'd kind of forgotten about it, but just said yes and went with it anyway. That's really cool and inspiring. And Samantha, do you have another? I know you've got another experience. You went through quite a lot this year in itself, but also, with your whole family dynamic and other dynamics as well. So,
Yeah. Well, the essence, well, not the essence, but the story is coming to my mind is actually trusting the intuitive hits that I was getting. I work as a psychic healer and as a life coach, and from a very intuitive perspective. And some people will go, "That's batshit crazy," but that's my reality, and it's a lot of fun and very wild, and just absolutely magical, though, like pure magic. And in the book, or in my chapter, I wrote about connecting to the goddess Isis and my experience of connecting with her at the age of 8 when I walked into the shopping mall and saw an Egyptian shopping shop, And I'd connected very, very profoundly with her. I didn't know what it was or who she was, but I just knew that she meant something to me in some way, shape, or form. And it was about 10 years ago. I was hosting a group meditation for a small stall that I was running. And it was a Sunday afternoon, and I sat there quietly and put myself in a state of meditation to just really start channeling what I needed to, like what kind of journey I needed to bring these participants for the meditation on. And the goddess Isis appeared before me in my mind's eye, and she was flying around me, and she stood in front of me and she said, "Hi, I'm here to help you." And I was like, "What?" I was so scared. I was not expecting, because I had no idea. And that was a really wild part of self-belief for me, because even though the fear was quite prominent and I was scared, again, there was something deep within me that was saying, actually, Sam, just trust this. See where it ends up. See where you end up. See what happens. And so I brought all my internal energetic walls down, and I connected with the goddess Isis. And then I still remember it like it was yesterday. In that brief meditative state that I was in, she had taken me to an oasis and sat with me, held my hands and said, "I'm here to guide you. I'm here to help you. I'm here to lead you." And she has done so for 10 years. And at every pivotal moment in my life, she has appeared. I wear her necklace that I bought in Egypt. I have a picture of her behind me. I've got a picture of a statue of Sekhmet. She's around me in every aspect of my life. But that's because I allowed myself to believe that and to honor that and move with that. And it's just, I don't have many words to describe how amazing it is and how magical it can be when we allow ourselves to trust that beyond the fear, because there's many moments in life where fear is going to come up. Even now, my son, my oldest boy, who's 19 now, was in a very intense motorbike accident earlier on in the year, and that's where we were in hospital for a few days. And terrifying, absolutely terrifying to see him. He needed some skin work, and like there was just it was just awful. But again, the goddess Isis was there pushing out that self-belief and trust, pushing me to trust and maintain my energy to support him through that and all the things that come with that. So yeah, I hope that answers that question. Kind of went off on a
Yeah,
tangent.
absolutely. From a really higher perspective, and it's great. I know there's a lot of people that work with entities, goddesses, angels, and it's awesome when someone can just embraces the power of that. I know Stuart can relate to that as well with the work that he does with ocean and ocean spirits, whale spirits, and dolphin spirits. So there's a lot. There's so much more to our reality than our five senses, and it's just so empowering when just someone embraces it. And you know, so I've just followed your Facebook journey for a little while now, and a lot of different things that you've posted, and you can actually see the energy and the entities in a lot of your photos that you actually post on Facebook. And I've had direct experience with with angels and guides and things like that as well. And so I don't believe that they're real. I know they're real, and you couldn't
Yes.
convince me otherwise. And
Yeah.
just by looking at the photos of your retreats, you can see the presence of higher consciousness, call it what you want there. And it's so awesome that the work that you do and you've been doing for the last decade, and just the way that you navigate challenges is really comes through in your chapter as well. And I know readers can get a lot from it. So yeah, thank you
Thank
for
you.
all that you do and you share, and it's amazing. And I just wanted to ask you, did you finally finish your house? I know that you were building a new house as well, you and your hubby,
Almost.
what
I'm so
everything
close.
going on. So it sounds
We're
like it's been
so
a long
close.
project. Yeah, well, I hope that that
Yeah.
gets done, completed this year as well.
Thank you.
You
Yeah,
must
I
be
think
very eager moving.
we're looking at another 4 to 5 weeks. We have the kitchen and all the cabinetry installed today and yesterday, so we're not too far away, and I cannot wait.
Fantastic. That's awesome. Yeah, the power of self-belief. It's going to happen. Yeah, have that faith and patience and trust. That's really cool. And Tracy, what about yourself? I know you've been through so much, and certainly the journey the last 12 months or so. Um,
Well, what comes to mind is where this journey, the 6-year journey began. It was in 2020 when I found that I just I have a problem doing something if I can't see the point to doing it. I've always had a problem with that.
sounds
And
like
I could no
school.
longer see the point to life. Eat, sleep, procreate, repeat, work, just didn't work for me any longer. And I was desperately searching, and I just decided that if there is no point, and I didn't want to be here any longer. And my daughters were both having a hard time. My husband's always said, "What's the point?" And I thought I could convince them to end it all with me. So I called a meeting, a family meeting, to plan a family suicide pact. And at that, my husband brought a manuscript that he'd written previously, a couple of years or few years previously. And he said, "Hey, let's see what we can do with that." And it changed my perspective. I suddenly got the point. And when we published it a few months later, he said I should put my name on it. And I said, "I can't do that. I didn't write it." He said, "Your voice, you brought your voice to it." And I could recognize the benefit to doing it. And I promised myself that I would embody everything we speak about, and I would walk the talk. And so we went ahead with my name on the cover with his. And the first step in, I didn't know where to go from there. I thought, okay, I've got to embody all of that I've written about. How do I do that? And one of the first things that came to me was, hey, the person you're becoming will have a wonderful relationship with their dad, is somebody that I didn't even know who was still alive and who I considered to be a monster. And so I fought it for a few weeks, and it kept on coming back and coming back. Hey, hey. And eventually I thought, okay, fine. And I reached out, and the process I write in my chapter of forgetfulness began, where you forgive to the level where it feels like there was nothing to forgive in the first place. I mean, people ask, say forgive, but don't forget. Forget that. If you're going to forgive, it's changing your life. It's taking it to a point where there's absolutely nothing to forgive in the first place. And once that process had culminated, I was so profoundly surprised that if you'd ever told me 10 years, 5 years previously, hey, this is what'll happen, I would have said to you, "What are you smoking?" Never. And to have my life so profoundly changed by that, it was absolutely amazing. And if I hadn't already, recognizing now, looking back in it, if I hadn't already developed some kind of self-belief that I could achieve what I was setting out to do, that would have I would have ended it at that point. And that was just the beginning. I didn't even know that homelessness and bankruptcy and all sorts of things were to follow. But yeah, that was profound, and it's kind of what carried me through. 20 years previously, I read a book called The Disappearance of the Universe, and he speaks about what he calls JAFO, JFO, JAFO, just another forgiveness opportunity, that the path to life is just paved with forgiveness opportunities. So I understand that no matter what happens, whenever you get triggered, it's just another forgiveness opportunity. I've coined it now JAFFO, and I'm sure you can figure out what the extra F is for. But yes, everything is paved with things for you to overcome, so that you can let go of them. And what I've now come to understand is that whatever happens to you, we're here. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And what is the human experience? It's to experience life. And why are some experiences good and some bad? They're not. It wasn't it Shakespeare who said there is nothing good nor bad but the thinking that makes it so. So the meaning that you bring to life is what splits everything into good or bad. So if everything is just an experience that you're here to experience, then experience it and just let it flow, let it through you and let it go. All disease, all problems in your body are trapped energy. They are experiences that you've held on to, that you haven't let flow and move on out. And if I hadn't have had some kind of divine guidance that I tapped into and trusted on some level, I would never ever have made it to where I'm standing now. And looking back on it, it has been an epic adventure. And as everything is, no matter how it starts, no matter what it looks like, it is an epic adventure. And when you can be that hero, standing in the present moment, and you know that no matter what you're facing, you are the hero of this story, and you can start imagining how you're going to tell the story as your hero self, you can face anything.
Very well said. Yeah, that was awesome. A lot of resonance there, and it really built off what was said earlier as well. And yeah, wonderful, wonderful share. And yeah, so awesome that you didn't quit on yourself and you didn't take your life, and so much has unfolded, post that, and incredible. That's really a very wise share, Tracy, and thank you for doing so. And of course, people can dive deeper into your chapter and wisdom in A Journey of Riches, The Power of Self-Belief. 99 cents for the ebook, 15.50 for the paperback, or if you're in the US, 9.99 for the Audible version. And it'd be great to hear from yourself, Susan. Do you have any sort of last tidbit or experience that you were challenged, your self-belief was challenged?
I would say, and it wasn't anything I really wrote about, but it had to do with my writings. Back, of course, when COVID came, all of our worlds kind of changed, and I was actually working out of the home as doing some recruiting for a local company. And I had been there for quite a while, kind of coming down off of my career. So I really loved doing it. But because of COVID, it kind of shut down the offices for a while. And that's when I decided I was going to start writing this dystopian, series. And I really got into it. And my husband was working from the home at the time. He worked over at Hanscom Air Force Base, and the offices, they kind of closed too. But I was always in the office typing, typing, typing. And then it came time for me to go back to work. And he sat down and he had a discussion with me. And he's been so supportive. I have been so blessed. Re-meeting him again. He was an old high school sweetheart, which I briefly talked about in the book. And we went our separate ways and had our lives, and ended up meeting on classmates.com of all places again years later. And, we've now been married for 21 years, and just the greatest support system. And he said, I think maybe you shouldn't go back to work. I think you should pursue what you've always wanted to do and sit and write. And and boy, it took me by surprise that, number one, he said that, and we'd be okay if I did do that. But I really had to dig deep. It's kind of like, whoa, I don't know if I can actually do this or not. I mean, I love writing and I am going to pursue this, but to leave my job and be at home, and for me, I'm the type of person that always has to be doing something. And I'm like sitting in my home, just in my office, when I have all the stuff that could be done in the house and some other things in the community. Oh, that would open up everything. Could I just commit myself to sit in my office and behave and write? Would I be worthy of what he said I could do? So that was a struggle. And, I had to really took a couple of weeks for me to make that decision, and said, you know what? I'm going to go down that path, and let's see what's going to happen. I'm going to commit. I did pretty good, committing to staying in my office for the most part, but it worked. And he had belief in me to do it before I even had belief that I could. So I just feel that was a really strong turning point in my life.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And that's, yeah, I can relate. I'm sure everyone else can relate as well. When you have that dream that you want to pursue, and then you've got the time to pursue it, and then all of a sudden the dishes becomes more important to do the dishes or the vacuuming or thousands of other things, rather than just be with yourself and do this thing that's been, on your heart for so long. And I can relate to that. Writing in this series, I, of course, contributed to the first 41 books in the Journey of Riches, and then also creating the documentary, The Gift in Adversity, which is featuring people like Jack Canfield, Dr. John Demartini, And it was such a journey. It took me like 8 years to get that film made. And so I can really relate to what you're saying, Susan. And I just hope that, yeah, I can just feel that, I wouldn't be surprised that, not long from now that, yeah, you're going to be sharing on social media that, hey, I got this deal and it's now being turned into a series. I know it's been a long time for you as well. And there's a lot of sacrifices go in that. And it's so awesome that your partner was supporting your dream. And, it's power of self-belief is such a journey. We really appreciate you, if you've been on Facebook watching live, really appreciate your presence and your essence and embracing the journey along with us the last hour or so, and so. And if you're watching on Facebook, on YouTube, if you'd like to get more of these panel interviews, like and subscribe, hit that bell notification, and we'll get more of these panel interviews to you. And I just really appreciate this last hour and a half or so with each and every one of you. And yeah, it's been such an awesome journey. If you haven't got the book yet, get the ebook. It's 99 cents. All proceeds go to Jules Children's Home, which is an amazing orphanage in the northeast of Bali. And yeah, they're just doing such an amazing work. I discovered them in 2021. And you can get paperback, of course, if you like that essence, that's something that's tangible and tactile, 1550, or the audio book if you're in the US. Yeah, we appreciate you and your support. And if you'd like to leave a review on Amazon, please do so. We'd love to hear your feedback. And if you'd like to reach out to the authors as well, please do so as well. They're on Facebook. You can see their full names here. Look them up. They've got and do incredible things out in the world. And I'd love to hear from you. Appreciate you all. Peace out.